Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
This is Luca Perich, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Recording has started.
Ho, 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 and welcome to Super Connectivity. Ho, ho, ho. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is the blue-eyed bomber from the Burg of Pits.
Phil, me and Perich.
That's correct. Times like these, I always remember that question that bogs men's minds: what state is known for growing the best potatoes?
Idaho.
And I'd a pimp, and don't you forget it.
Oh
my goodness. Hey guys, this is the special Christmas episode of Super Connectivity, in which we're unveiling a somewhat deeper format that we want to explore in the new year, and I figure this is as good a time as any to do it, which is we're going to focus on one character in the Marvel or DC universe and expand out their legend and their lore and understand who they are. And of course, today, because of the season, we're going to be exploring the one character who actually exists in both universes. That, of course, of Santa Claus. And, yeah, I gotta tell you, Marvel really loves Santa Claus lore. DC, not so much. And I may be oversimplifying this because this is really based on like the, fandom articles or the fandom articles that are wikied out there right now. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm using the Marvel Universe app to try and find Santa Claus comics. They're actually really hard to find in the Marvel Universe. Maybe they're not properly tagged or whatever, but even when I'm going through the wikis, here's what I'm going to say is like, clearly the Marvel fans have a dear belovedness of this character, whereas DC fans, honestly, see him as an exploiter of labor and a cruel man who gives lousy gifts. I'm not sure what that means about the universes in which we live, but I have come to realize that really the Restore the Snyderverse people should really just be saying, have an Injustice cinematic universe.
I mean, I think if you want like way, way back, maybe like the 40s and 50s, I think Santa might have been portrayed a little more kinder in in DC back in the day. I think it's just the modern stuff that it gets, again, after the Dark Knight Returns in 1986, everything in DC went way dark. So yeah,
I mean,
Santa included.
What I get to is this very interesting idea of so when you work through the Marvel universe, and of course, this is Marvel's way, is there's not rebooted universes, there's not rebooted continuities. Even when we do literally reboot the continuity, we still got to go back and say, but all that stuff still happened, right? And we say, yes, it all happened, and we have to now hammer it into a position that it makes sense. We have the so, and this is one of these things where I'm not sure if it's working with spatial timeline or publishing timeline. But you do have Nick Fury, Captain America, and Bucky rescuing Santa Claus after he's been captured by Hitler. You do have a Magneto-less Brotherhood of Evil Mutants locating Santa Claus, and it's a very interesting thing. The idea, and of course, none of these are like in issues; they're all like in special Marvel Age features, where and this is where the idea that Santa Claus is an Omega level mutant comes from, because apparently he shows up on Cerebro. They all go, and he uses his amazing magical Santa powers to turn the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants into toys, and then wipe everyone's memory of it. I mean, honestly, it's all very exciting stuff.
Did you read the Deadpool issue? Oh, you would love the Deadpool issue.
Refresh my memory on the. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, the children hired Deadpool to go after Santa Claus
because he didn't deliver presents. But then, because Deadpool goes to the North Pole and finds out, one of the elves marched the other elves out and went the rocks on.
Yeah, dang Roxxon, and that's always the thing. And that's not new because Santa had a whole thing where he had to get a high octane sleigh back in the 70s, but then there was a fuel shortage, and Howard the Duck had to save him. I mean, it gets crazy. But to be fair, it's the reality of that universe where you have a talking duck as one of the main characters of the Marvel universe. Where that becomes normal. It expands out a universe that, it's just normal.
Well, you get the flip side too, because I don't know if you read, there's a Ghost Rider Infinite comic on Marvel Unlimited where Santa makes an appearance, but most of it, for you people who like your action, it's Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider versus Krampus.
Yes. Well, that's not the first time we saw Krampus, because we saw Krampus in the Sweet Christmas episode too of Luke Cage. And there is this embracing of the Santa Claus mythos and all of its complexities over at Marvel. Meanwhile, at DC, I have to feel there has to be more. It just seems like there has to be more, but it's like I can't think of the last time Santa Claus was shown to be a real existing force of, I guess that's sort of one of the problems, I guess, because they, I think DC sometimes has that problem where if they establish, it's sort of like the Spectre. I remember a while back, and Spectre is the wrath of God, yada, yada, yada. But then they have to nerf him when someone's got the Spear of Destiny or the Book of whatever. And then that's going to set up the current crisis. And it's not to say that people don't get nerfed all the time in comic books. It happens.
I mean, all the way back to World War II. I mean, I don't know if that's like a more modern interpretation, but there's certain stories where it's like, oh, Hitler had the Spear of Destiny. That's why the JSH couldn't just go in and take him out and stuff. And
yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's weird sometimes in how they play it, and and to be fair, Galactus is the most dwarfed character, I think, in the Marvel universe. He's at one time the most fearsome threat in the universe, yet they keep on finding dead Galacti all over the place in the Marvel universe. It's weird. It's a little bit weird exactly how the dead Galacti work, but
well, again, when they want some big universe-threatening threat, they're always just like, "Oh, hey, look, you can even take out Galactus."
Yeah, they even let Thanos do that once, Honestly, that just seems like a Make-A-Wish Foundation thing. I don't know. Let Thanos fight Galactus and feel like he won,
Start showing up in those movies, man. You get popular, man. That ups your power level.
Yeah. But no, but it is. And here's what I want to say is there is a version of Santa Claus in the DC universe that I think both embraces what DC wants to do with Santa Claus and expand out on him. And that, of course, is the Teen Titans Go Santa Claus. Have you watched the Teen Titans Go, Phil? Any of the many Christmas episodes they've done so far?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And, the thing about it is it's very interesting because it is clearly based within this structure that, Christmas is a dominant holiday that seeks more space and power, and is trying to take power away from other holidays. Does not like the other holidays, but is also at the same time the most powerful holiday, regardless of what it does. So it's the kind of holiday that it's going to take the things, but it's also, you can reach out to Santa Claus and it can beat just about any other holiday that you come across. So, to be fair, the Teen Titans Go seem to have a lot of fights with holidays. George Washington and Robin do not get along very well.
Nope.
But it's interesting. Recently we had, there is, of course, Baby New Year as the apparently the dawn of the holidays, which makes sense because Baby New Year is the one who allows for the new holidays to come in. And Santa was having, and honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. When I was watching that episode of it, I was really expecting that Santa was not involved in the attempted hit on Baby New Year. That was the Easter Bunny setting him up. But no, it was totally him the whole time. It's like, man, I did not see, because I always feel weird about the Easter Bunny because he is very creepy in the Teen Titans Go universe. And so it's like, you feel like, yeah, he's up to something, but maybe he just looks weird. Maybe that's my own prejudice. I don't know. But getting back to the Marvel universe, there's this complex lore about the thought structures that formed him, both Saint Nicholas and Odin and the Elders of Winter coming together, and whether or not Father Christmas and Santa Claus are separate entities but spawned from the same power. It's weird to me that Marvel has this much lore on Santa Claus, at least in the Nerdiverse. And DC needs more of that. They need to have lore. They need to have an understanding of Santa Claus as a character to bring joy to their universe. I guess they're supposed to be dark and gritty, and that's fine. But, they could use with a Santa Claus show up every so often. Because that's the thing. Santa Claus isn't trying to rule the world. He isn't trying to be the most powerful being in the Omniverse. He's trying to bring joy to people. And he shows up on occasion just to mess with you, but not in a bad way like Mixoplex.
Yeah, I mean, who should do a Christmas special and get into the history and the magic of Santa, like a Doctor Strange story. That's what that should be, a Doctor Strange story.
It wouldn't surprise me if there is not at least some version of that in existence somewhere. But yeah, absolutely. Doctor Strange or Dr. Fate.
No, true, yeah.
One of the things that made me mad is that I know, which is one of my favorite Santa is a character in the DC Universe's entries that was left off of this, was the fact that Cheeks the Toy Wonder, who is Ambush Bug's original sidekick, had kind of a Clone Saga situation where one of the Cheeks toys fell off of Santa's sleigh, was found after Cheeks supposedly died. Another Cheeks came to Ambush Bug and he had Cheeks again. And to me, that's like the biggest problem for me in any modern interpretation of Ambush Bug is we don't have Cheeks with him. Because honestly, I think even when you want to do that grimmer and grittier Ambush Bug, having Cheeks there would be a real selling point for the character and the story. I think it all, sometimes I just don't know if DC knows they're making comic books anymore. Although I do have comic books to read that I do need to read because I haven't read them yet. One Star Squadron sounds really good.
Oh yeah,
I recently picked that up. So, I think the joy is there in DC. They just don't know what to do with it.
It seems like they're trying to bring it back because they've been dark for such a long time.
I know, and it's it's what it is they know that they can attract people like me if they do it, but they're going to turn off a bunch of people that just want the darkness. Is it worth it? Is it worth it to expand the borders if your foundation falls away?
I'm just looking at I was looking up to see if there was a Doctor Strange and Santa story, and I found this article that says, yes, Santa is an Omega level mutant in the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, look, he has immortality, telepathy, teleportation, weather manipulation, molecular manipulation, immunity to cold and heat, and gravity manipulation.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he's definitely Omega level. Whether or not he's a mutant, or whether or not he is a construct of human belief, that's the core question.
Yeah. Is he magic or is he a mutant? Yeah.
Although at the end of the day, it's like, is Krakoa going to say, Santa, you can't come here? No, Krakoa is going to say, yes, Santa, you are our brother mutant, because much like Franklin Richards, he is what he needs to be. If you need Santa Claus to come and deliver toys to the children of Krakoa, he is the most Omega level of every mutant you ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
He is there. He has come. He will give toys to the children of Krakoa.
And I mean, he is an icon. It's either he's in stories or there's just like characters who dress like Santa in some of these stories.
Oh yeah. Although often for the darkness, and then that's one of those things. It's like you will have that story where some person dresses as Santa, and Santa takes offense at the blaspheming of him, and he will arrive to smite you because of it.
The Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man issue by Peter David. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
There was a burglar who was dressing like Santa, and he was like, he'd come to the window and tell kids, "Oh yeah, if you give me your old used TV, I'll bring you and your parents a big screen. It's Christmas morning," and of course that's untrue, but.
Yeah, and
And at the end, Peter's chasing him, and before he reaches him, the fake Santa's on the rooftops, and they just show he gets stopped by someone in a red suit, but they don't show it's Santa, but it's Santa.
Yeah. To come back to the workshop to meet with his friend Krampus.
Well, no, the next morning I don't know what he did, but the burglar starts giving all the gifts, all the stolen stuff back, and yep.
Well, there you go. So it's the ghosts of Christmas past,
mm-hmm.
which is one of those great mythological icons that are very much often used, but never get that iconographic status that Santa Claus has. Which is odd because you think about the Christmas Carol. It can be argued that from a story point of view, the Christmas Carol is the birth of our modern understanding of Christmas and Christmas magic.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it doesn't, it gets used, but it's like the closest you get is the idea of Christmas, the ghost of Christmas present being essentially Father Christmas, but like young and virile and wearing green. It's like he's got the big beard and he's got the robes and all this stuff, but he's it's all green and he's young and I don't know how svelte he is, but he's a big guy. He's like Volstagg. He's like got a lot of muscle, and then he keeps his muscle in a protective layer of fat, like I do. Because if you just have the muscles right out there, someone might scratch your muscles and that's bad. But if you put a nice protective layer of fat around your muscles will be safe to be strong, and the fat just acts like an extra armor soak. Gives you that extra level of health, kids. Remember that when you're playing D&D. But anyway, but that's Santa Claus. He's a pretty great character, I think.
Yeah, when villains aren't dressing up like him.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. But it's one of these things where I think the idea of when characters address the divine, and let's be honest, in our modern world, Santa Claus is the divine. This is one of these areas where it's like there is a sociological magic associated with it that you don't necessarily have in a lot of other things. Um, and its existence uh, is one of these places where, as you walk towards it, you have to be careful. But because you have to be careful doesn't mean you shouldn't walk towards it. And you see this all the time in comic books with the one above all and this. And again, I think this is where you get this idea within Marvel Comics where they say, we know we're comic books, we know we're stories. And whether or not, we're going to say, oh, the land of the dead is a casino and people are gambling and, this and that. And God is Jack Kirby and he's going to draw the rocks back on Ben Grimm because that's the story he wants to tell. All of these expressions of these things that are beyond mortal comprehension. It's like, yeah, it's beyond mortal comprehension. So of course we're using some kind of allegorical story to tell it. Don't get bogged down in the details. Don't be a rules accountant, as we say in D&D, or as I would say in D&D and many other games. It's like, don't sit there and say, no, I need 4d6 to do this, and that needs to open the gate. It's like, no, it's about what helps the story. Because this is all allegory to help us walk through the process. At least that's my opinion, Philip. Any final thoughts on Santa Claus from your perspective?
I don't believe so.
Okay. One thing I do want to talk about, just to let you know that this isn't just going to be a Santa Claus episode, is I do want to talk about Scarlett Johansson.
Oh.
And the fact that she is going to be a producer on future Marvel films. That after all of this nonsense, she's back in the fold, ready to work. Which emphasizes the fact that it was never about anything other than I just want to get paid for the work I'm doing. I know the value of my existence, which is very much of the time at this moment. People knowing that their existence has value and their work has value, and how much money someone's going to make off of their interpretation of this character that predates them and will post-date them, but that they exist in. And the fact of the matter is that, Feige's universe is one leg on the Disney universe, and Feige is trying to keep it under control to continue to make profit, even as people above him are trying to sabotage profit because they're bad at their job. I had linked to an article recently, but it is interesting because it is this description of working in the MCU as this place of workman creatives, which is such a delightful idea that I think is not strongly explored. And there was a book not long ago describing the way that certain artists are perceived, and you had like the young Turks and the old masters. Whereas there are these people that in their youth they create these amazing, groundbreaking things, but then after their youth they don't create. And then there are these people that spend a lifetime perfecting an art, and then when they get to the end of that lifetime, they are masters at creating this thing that is so ethereal that you can perceive it. Even hundreds of years later, you realize how much of a master that person was. And I really feel in many ways that I feel like the Marvel Studios is a place for old masters. even as much as it is a place for young Turks as well, they don't sacrifice the young Turk. They don't embrace young Turks at the sacrifice of the old masters. I think that is Disney at its best, is when they are an organization that says, we have a history, we understand where we are, and we want to bring in new talent, but we also want old talent to stay here to guide the new talent away from the pitfalls of mistakes that have been made in the past. And
Oh,
if you
yeah.
don't,
I think
yeah.
they probably keep an eye out for that too, don't you think? And it's like, as people are acting, they're like, okay, well, this person has like a creative eye, or has insights into even like the behind the camera stuff. So hey, yeah, let's
Yeah.
throw this out. But the whole thing with Scarlett Johansson, I was just like, were you saying, do you think she brought that to the table, or was that one of their peace offerings? They're like, oh yeah, okay, we kind of stiffed you on some money, so here's some money, and like here's a a producer thing where you can make a lot of more money in the future.
I think it's a little from column A, a little from column B.
Okay.
I think it's definitely an appeasement, but it's an appeasement that is given with the fullness of the heart.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
it's one of these things where it's like in a non-COVID world, and Black Widow drops when it's supposed to, and it makes all the billions that it would have. That it's like, yeah, of course, Scar, you can do producer credits. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
You know what you're doing. And as you said, I've been doing this for 30 years, which is shocking to say, because for what it's worth, she's an old lady, like, but her job is to be who she is. I still think she's younger than me, but still, it is this idea that she has been in acting for a very long time. She's been in production for a very long time.
Probably since she was a child, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, she had to be a teen. I don't know what her first project was, but she's been around for a while.
Yeah.
She's been around that I remember this hot new ingenue called Scarlett Johansson. I said, 23 skidoo, those kids today. So, yeah, I mean, but the idea that she is intellectual enough, and we know this because she is a lover of her avant-garde films. She's done a lot of avant-garde films, which is, again, one of these things that you see in the Marvel Universe, where these people, they say, no, we want to do, like, and it's actually the, it's the James Cagney model. James Cagney liked to do important films, but you couldn't do important films unless you did some gangster films, because if you did a gangster film, you'd have money, and then you could do a good film. So James Cagney would do a bunch of gangster films. He'd take his money, and then he'd go and do good films, and he'd do Yankee Doodle Dandy, and he'd do a lot of other things that weren't big musical things, but he would do things that made him feel good as an artist. But he also knew, I need to do the work. I need to get the money to do that. And I think that is what Marvel is. That is what Disney should be. We're a place where you understand that, we need the artists, but not the artists that don't want to do work. We need the artists that understand it's a work, and it's a progress, and it's a whole complex machine, and that there's artistry in being that old master who knows how to fit the pieces together. And it's great if you're a young Turk and you can say, I think if we put this here and this there, that's still going to work, but it still has to work at the end of the day. And I think that is the complexity of all of this. And then to bring it back to Santa Claus, because it all has to come back to Santa Claus. It is whether or not you want to see Santa Claus as this singular entity, either good or evil, or if you want to see Santa Claus as an evolving concept within human culture. And Santa Claus being this being that is the all-giving and is the all-knowing, but who is also holding himself back to that one night a year. And how they're going to interact with us is less about their actual story and more about what we're dealing with. So when we fear corporatization, Santa Claus will be subsumed by Roxanne and will still be a noble being who has to fight against it. And Santa Claus may use his amazing superpowers to help solve crimes with the She-Hulk at some point. But you know what? It all works out, and these powers can be integrated in however we want to in the off season or during that very special Christmas episode. And to me, I think that's what's important with Santa Claus. That's what's important in storytelling in general, is understanding that you can have stories that aren't necessarily congruous. We can have Howard the Duck, and DC can have Ambush Bug. They can have these characters that don't fit, and it's okay. Excuse me. DC can introduce the Inferior Five. They can introduce Justice League. Was it Justice League International? They can take their sillier ideas and weave them into the larger things. If there's anything that Legends of Tomorrow has taught us, is that DC has a lot of silly ideas that they can weave in seamlessly into their larger stories. It doesn't have to be all one thing. And you know, I think this embrace of consistency is the failure of modern canonical storytelling. Is this idea that things must always be canon. And you know, I haven't seen No Way Home yet. I will probably see it this Saturday. I am seeing all of this tidal wave coming at me right now of spoilers and, oh my gosh, can you believe Redacted is in this? I'm like, I'm not clicking on that.
I know.
And it's like, you know, granted, you know, Phil Coastland can show up at the end with Monica Rambeau and Cloak and Dagger and Daredevil and Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. All these beings can show up at the end of that, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to make too much of an assessment of it. You know, I do want my Max Coulson robot character in there as part of the secret invasion plotline, but I can live even if that never comes to pass. And I've got theories on that too that we'll explore later on other episodes of Super Connectivity, possibly before this one. But you know, at the end of the day, stories are the stories we tell. And the stories we tell have to speak to us. And we can't worry about how they speak to the things that came before them or the things that came after. Because the people who read the stories before us won't worry so much about the stories we're telling now. And the people who are reading the stories after will figure out a way to deal with the stories we told now that later. So tell a story for now, and if it's good, we'll enjoy it. That's my opinion, Phil. What's yours?
Enough said.
Enough said. Yes, good old enough said. Philip, you know, I've said a lot of nonsense. Many people have nonsense they'd like to tell me. How can they do that quickly and easily and maybe buy things, give us money, and buy merch?
If you want to talk to Charlie Esser or any of the rest of us peons, yes, please email capesandlunatics@gmail.com or call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And you can find all the social media, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the YouTube channel, our Patreon, where if you can subscribe, please do. We're all on our own now. Or if you want to pick up your merch, like Charlie said, you can find everything at Linktree, linktr.ee/capesandlunatics.
Is there a link to Patreon on Linktree?
Yes.
Perfect. So, yes, it's all there, folks. Buy some t-shirts. We have them in larger sizes. I told my wife to buy me one for Christmas. Hopefully I'm getting one.
Nice.
Fingers crossed. And, of course, if you'd like to write to me directly, personally, cut out the middleman. Go factory direct to me. Write me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things when I feel like it, and there are new shows to live tweet because right now we're in that rerun cycle. @Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssser. Look for the two E's in the middle. For what?
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Maz. And that has been our ho happy holidays episode of Super Connectivity. I am the Jolly Fat Man, and I thank you for joining me and my friend Phil as we discuss Christmas and the holiday season within the pop cultural landscape. I certainly hope you join us next year for another adventure. Enough said.
Enough said, Santa.